It was about 10 p.m. and I was working on my humanities essay in the rotunda. It was just me and a few remaining students in the area. The college officially closes at 11, so I was fully immersed and typing away as the remaining time slipped away. After a solid 30 to 45 minutes of writing, I took a break to change my music that I was listening to and looked up to find the rotunda abandoned, all but one person. This was no big deal since I was used to being the only person left at one time or another. I looked back to my phone and found the song I was looking for and put my phone back down. I glanced up again and found that the person directly across from me was staring at me. Our eyes met and I quickly looked down, dismissing it as that awkward "oops, I saw you looking at me" moment. A few minutes of typing passed and I couldn't help looking back to see the other person, and to my surprise the guy was still staring at me. He didn't have anything on his table and I couldn't see a backpack from my angle. He was just sitting there, his hands collapsed together and covering his mouth as his head was resting on them. This time I held the glance longer, being a bit annoyed that the guy wasn't turning away. Eventually I looked back down as the uncomfortable stare continued. A few more minutes passed, and I knew he was staring. Annoyed, I grabbed my phone and walked off to the bathroom to hide from the guy and text my boyfriend about the weird situation. I know all of you must be like, why would you just leave your stuff? Well, the bathroom is right next to the rotunda, and it's not unusual for me or other students to just dip to the bathroom and be back. Besides, I didn't want to pack up all my stuff just to unpack in a few more minutes. Also, I did not think that anything would get stolen since there are cameras all around. So I finished my business and turned the corner to return to my table when I see him there. He is just standing at my desk, not touching anything, just staring at my open laptop and perhaps my notes. I'm not sure. In that moment, I thought he was about to steal something. So I sped up and began to approach him, calling out, "Hey, can I help you with something?" He turned to look at me. It was the first good look I got of him. Since he was so close, he seemed to be older than me. I'm guessing upper 20s, perhaps 26. He had messy curly hair, a stubbly beard, and just these huge, weirdly bulging dark eyes. Like imagine pug eyes, but a man. He did not say anything, just stared at me with a blank expression, and then turned around and walked back to his seat. Confused and slightly freaked out, I decided to call my boyfriend and told him about the encounter. He suggested moving to another spot, and I agreed, constantly having him on the phone to show the guy that I technically wasn't alone. I packed up my stuff and headed down the hallway exit from the rotunda. Being a little paranoid, I turned around to check if he was following me. I did not see him. I ended up calling after, ensuring my boyfriend I was fine. I forgot to mention that the campus has some buildings that are connected. The rotunda is in the D building, and it connects to the next building, which was where I headed to. It was past 11 now, and the school was officially closed. When it reaches 11, the door's shut, and you can't get in from the outside, or open some doors from the inside. But it's no big deal as long as you know the path you need to take. I make it to the next study area and put down my bag and start to unpack. I finish my essay rather quick and forget about the weird guy. It's about 11:30 when I hide my laptop and pull out my math homework. I only had a bit left of it, so I wanted to crank it out before I headed home. Digging through my bag, I realized that I forgot my math textbook in the car. With a sigh, I got up to go get it. I had parked at the parking garage, which luckily was connected to the next building over, so I wouldn't need to go outside. I leave my stuff, grab my keys, and head down the hall to the next building. It's a straight hallway all the way to the next building, so when you turn backwards, you can see the past building studies room behind you. I stop by the water fountain, and from the corner of my eye, I see him. It's the same guy. He's standing at the entrance of the hallway behind me. I quickly turn around and begin to speed walk forward. I keep telling myself that it's okay, that he is just probably headed to his car. I finally take the turn right after the hallway ends, and I enter the next building. I rush up the stairs and take another corridor that leads to the parking garage. I glance over my shoulder and he is closer, too close. He had to run in order to catch up to me. I am sure of it. I walk into the parking garage and run to my car. It's parked close, so I fling open the back seat and jump in. I don't know what I was thinking. and why I wouldn't jump in the driver's seat. I just wanted to hide. It came to me then that I left all my stuff back in the study room, and I gave myself a mental slap in the face as I peeked out over my window. He was standing by the entrance. He wasn't looking around, or walking towards me or any car. He was just blankly staring into the parking lot. At this point I became angry. I don't know what came over me, but I was so over this encounter. Mumbling under my breath, I grabbed the textbook off the back seat and opened my door and stepped out. My car door gave an echo as I slammed it shut. I saw his glance fall on me. With my mind made up, I headed towards him and the entrance. At first, I was ready to mouth him off, but with every step closer, that courage I had began to dwindle away. I walked right past him, not saying a word, and he just stared. He didn't say anything. Those huge eyes just followed me around. The moment the door closed behind me, I bolted. I ran faster than I ever have, back down the corridor, through the hallway, and into the student room, where I threw everything into my backpack and then flung the backpack on my back. I turned to head back through the hallway, and there he was, just standing, just looking. Then he finally opened his mouth and said hello. I was so utterly confused. It was probably midnight now. The cleaners were just starting to clean the A building, and I knew security was somewhere around the J building, so if the guy pulled anything, no one would be able to help me. Carefully, I took a step forward, ready to go around him, while responding with a weak smile. The guy's face turned angry, and he suddenly reached out to grab me. He missed as I dodged sideways and yelled, "What the hell, dude?" He laughed, but I dodged and then turned around to run into the other building. My heart was pounding as I mentally created a plan to ditch this guy. I was freaking out. I hadn't expected him to react in such a way. I ran through the D building, trying to remember how to get to the A building without running into the locked doors. I had to run into the cleaners to at least have other people face the guy with me. They were closer than the police. During the run, he was right behind me, calling out my real name, saying that I must wait for him, that I wasn't being ladylike. He was fast, and I could hear his stomps behind me. I knew I wouldn't make it to the A building in time. He would surely catch me before then. I had to lose him somehow. I was running past the rotunda, almost in tears, when I remembered about the locked doors. After the exit from the rotunda, there was a staircase leading down. Turning left would bring me to the lecture hall that had doors that did not lock, but the exit to the outside was locked once the doors slammed shut. Turning right would lead me down under the rotunda and then towards the other building. I flew down the stairs as I turned left. I realized that the man had slowed down. He was jogging behind me, and he was laughing. I dove into the lecture hall and headed for the exit. I swung the door open and then turned around and ran up the levels of the lecture hall and hid behind one of the desks. The exit door is heavy and slowly closes, so as I heard the lecture entrance door open, I could still hear the exit door sliding shut. I heard the guy run past, and then the exit door creaked open again and then slowly shut, the click echoing as it finally closed. I sat silent for a few minutes until I finally peeked past the desk. There was no one there. He had run outside, probably thinking I bolted for it. It was there when I finally took a minute to breathe. My hands were shaking as I took my phone out to call the college police. I explained what happened and told them I would wait in the lecture hall until help arrived. I walked down the levels, and when I reached the ground level, I looked out the exit door and my blood ran cold. He was there, his eyes widened when he saw me, and he tried the door handle, but it obviously did nothing since it was locked. He kicked the door in anger, gave me one final look, and walked off into the darkness. I stayed in the room, shaking and jumping at every sound until the police arrived. I was scolded for staying after hours, and the police took down my ID number, but when they listened to what happened to me, I think they took pity. One of the officers left to go patrol the area while the other one escorted me to my car. This was a little more than a week ago, and I have not been given any updates on whether they caught the guy. I'm still thinking about everything that happened. How did he know my name? Did he see it on my essay when he was staring at my laptop? Why had he followed me to my car? Why had he followed me to my car and not tried to attack me there when we were all alone, if that was his plan all along? And if so, why didn't he have anything with him? So this happened a couple of years ago when I was a sophomore in high school. I had this boyfriend named Fisher. He wasn't the most attractive, but he was nice. So we started talking and eventually decided to become a couple. Things started off normally, as they usually do. But soon I started to become overwhelmed by his attention. He never wanted me to see my best friend or do anything that did not involve him. Eventually, he would want to talk on the phone as soon as we parted for the night. It wouldn't let me go to bed. One night, I couldn't take it, and I told him that I was going to bed. Then I hung up. About a half hour later, I hear a knock at my basement door. I move the curtains a little, and he's standing out there. He refused to leave until I let him in. This went on for months and months. He would stalk me at work and at home. If I didn't answer, he would call my parents and ask where I was and what I was doing. At one point, I tried to break up with him, and he started freaking out and saying he was going to kill himself and it would be my fault. I was afraid to leave him and afraid to go anywhere thinking he would follow me. One of the times he showed up in the middle of the night, I let him in hoping I could convince him to leave. Wrong move. He went into my brother's room and picked up his butterfly knife and began playing with it. I was getting a little freaked out by then, so I asked him to leave. As I went to walk away, he grabbed my arm really tight and wrenched me backwards while still holding the knife. I hit him in the face and started screaming at him to get out of my house. The next day, he went on like nothing had happened. I broke up with him over the phone that day. That wasn't the end, though. A couple of days later, I was hanging out with a guy friend, and my ex showed up and tried to talk to me. My guy friend knew everything that had happened, so he offered his house for a place to avoid my ex. We quickly left and walked there, only to realize my ex had followed us. We went inside and looked out the window to see my ex sitting on his front steps. I then got a call from my mom saying my ex had told her I was in danger and going into a strange man's house. When I told her the truth, she called him back and flipped out on him. He still wouldn't leave. He started yelling at us through the window that he wouldn't leave unless I came out and hugged him. He kept saying, "It's only one little hug. You owe me this." We finally got him to leave by threat of calling the police. Still not the end. The last main event with him was finding out he had been stealing my dirty socks and keeping them for his fetish. He offered them and my hoodie I had left at his place back. He said I could only get them if I came alone. I told him no way that was happening and that I was done with him for good. We still went to the same high school, so I saw him for years, but we didn't have any interaction after that. It's a creepy fetish ex-boyfriend. Let's not meet again. Alright, if you enjoyed the video, go ahead, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching.